Hello and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thanks for joining us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. There were over 45.6 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally as of October the 30th. Over 29.6 million people had recovered, and the number of deaths is edging closer to 1.2 million. The 8 most affected countries have almost 64% of the global burden. In Nigeria, there were a total of 62,691 infections, out of which 58,430 have recovered, and sadly 1,144 have died. Recovery rate is about 93%, very high, the highest so far. Case fatality rate is 1.8%, steady, and 625,510 samples have been tested. That's just over 23,000 samples in the week, a decline from the week before, which was over 29,000 samples. 243.6 million children under 5 years old have at least one form of malnutrition. Around 45% of deaths among children under 5 years of age are linked to undernutrition. These mostly occur in low and middle income countries, exacerbated, according to the WHO, by the COVID-19 pandemic. My guest is a public health physician and a member of the Association of Medical Officers of Health, Dr. Rike Ogunyemi. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mary. Always a pleasure to be here.
So they're talking about at least one form of malnutrition. How many forms do we have?
Okay, now, let's look at it this way. Let's give a definition to malnutrition. So when we say what is malnutrition, malnutrition is when you have a deficiency or you have an excess or an imbalance of energy, vitamins, consumption, and all that. So you could actually have children being undernourished and you can have children being over. Okay, that's when you talk about obesity and all that. Now let's look at undernutrition. In undernutrition, we have like 4 broad categories basically. So we say a child could be stunted, there could be wasting, the child could be underweight, or could be lacking in essential vitamins. Now, when we talk about stunting, basically, stunting means that the child's height is less than what is expected for his age. Exactly. So that means if I line up like 10 children who are about 5 years of age, they should have a mean height. So any child that falls drastically below the mean for that is
stunted.
Stunted. Yes. And then we have underweight. That's when the child's weight is reduced in comparison to the height of that child.
Okay.
Okay. So that child is underweight. Now, when a child is wasted,
he's too tall for his size.
Not just too
or
tall.
For his
wasted
weight.
Means that exactly the weight is extremely, low compared to what is expected for that child's height. Mm-hmm. So that child, you will just see the child looks extremely lean, wasted. The muscle bulk is not there. It's just like skin hanging on bone.
Are these things we can readily see on a child? I mean, if you're not a doctor, for example.
Well, yes and no, depending on how bad the level of the malnutrition is. Malnutrition could be mild, it could be moderate, and it could be severe. In severe cases, you don't need anybody to tell you. Like you see in war zones, yes. Children who have,
everybody
exactly.
knows that.
So
even the color of their hair changes, the texture changes.
They look hungry. Sometimes they have distended abdomen. They look lean. The hands are thin, the limbs are thin, and then the stomach is big, the face is round and puffy. Yes, in severe cases, yes.
But let's say somebody is just getting into some form of malnutrition, okay. Undernutrition or whatever. And is there a way the caregiver can notice before it becomes serious?
Well, for example, now let's look at for adults, basically. The way you know you're losing weight is when your clothes don't fit anymore. Okay? So a telltale sign will be that when you carry your child, you know how the child feels when you carry.
Feels lighter, okay.
So the child feels lighter in your hand.
Okay.
Okay? So gradually the child is losing weight. Now, sometimes another odd way of knowing is that a child that's usually rather attentive starts to lose concentration.
Okay.
Yes, undernutrition can actually cause that as well. So a child fails to thrive. For example, now, at a certain age, you expect a child to be able to do certain things. Maybe at the age of 6 months, the child should be able to sit. Child should have neck control. At the age of 9, should have started reaching out for things. 9 months, should have started reaching out to pick things.
Okay.
Now, when the child is not doing that, there's like a general apathy in that child. Okay, so that child is getting undernourished. That could be one of the signs. There are other conditions that could cause that. But yes, that's one of the symptoms of undernutrition in young children. In older children, you will just notice that no matter what that child eats, the child is probably not just gaining weight.
No matter what the child eats?
No matter what the child eats, the child is not gaining weight.
So how is it corrected if he's eating and it's not getting better?
So the issue is, what is the child eating?
Okay.
Now, it's different to eat and it's different to eat. Let me explain what I mean by that. Now, you make a meal for a child and it's lacking in the basic nutrients. We all know the 6 classes of food. Good. So why would you make food for a child and it doesn't have protein? Why would you make food for a child and it doesn't have vitamins? So the child is consuming the carbohydrates. That's the calorie intake. So yes, the child might have energy to move about, okay? But the protein is lacking in the child's food. Fats and oil is lacking in the child's food. So definitely that child is eating, but yet the child is not eating because the proper thing the child needs as nutrition is deficient.
Okay.
Yes, and then we can also talk about hidden hunger. Hidden hunger is when you lack the essential vitamins. You lack
what
iron,
you call the micronutrients?
The micronutrients, thank you.
Do you have symptoms for deficiency in micronutrients?
Okay, now a very common one is this. You see some children that have like a mark by the side of the mouth. I think we used to call it snappy or something like that.
Okay.
But it's a deficiency of vitamins, vitamin C especially,
okay,
when they have sores around the mouth.
And people say it is malaria.
No, not all the time. Not all the time. So it's a deficiency of vitamin C when children have sores in their mouth and those sores just wouldn't heal on time. It's a deficiency. Sometimes even the skin of the child is dry and flaky. You've heard of beriberi before.
That's right.
Yes, it's a micronutrient deficiency. Okay, so those are things that one could actually notice when it comes to micronutrients. But of course, we call it, even in medicine, we call it hidden hunger. That means you can't see it. So sometimes it's when you
So the person is eating but not thriving.
Exactly.
Now, we know that with the advent of COVID-19, things became even worse.
Yes.
People were cloistered in their homes. Some people who had get their money every day couldn't go out anymore. So, of course, food wasn't as plentiful and as rich as before. What do people do now? I know things are better now. Most people have come out of lockdowns, at least on our own end of the earth sphere.
Yes, fortunately.
But it's not as thriving as it used to be.
True.
How does somebody eat well? They tell you they can't afford to eat well. And they're thinking of things like lettuce and ham, exotic things. What are the local things that people can take and get everything at once, all the time?
Fantastic. I love that. Now, I tell people that feeding is a deliberate act. You just don't grab everything that comes to you. It's readily available or accessible and you eat. No, you have to be deliberate about what you eat.
You have to plan the meal.
You have to plan the meal and you have to plan your resources. Now, let me give a common example of something that we as mothers, we do and it's not right. Your child is going to school and you're packing the lunch bag, okay? And you pack biscuits, you pack juice, you pack maybe rice, okay?
Carbs all the way.
Thank you. Now, whoever made a rule that you had to put juice in that child's bag?
Instead of water.
What happened to, okay, they even put water, but what happened to buying orange?
Okay.
You can get 2 oranges for 15 naira. It's cheaper than buying those carton juices. Some of them go for 15 naira, 100 naira. Buy orange, peel it, put it in the child's bag. It's more nutritional for that child at the end of the day. So, you want to make, for example, a bowl of noodles for a child, and you just do plain noodles because it's very yummy. Children like it. So the child scoops it down, and you think you have nourished your child. No, the child has just eaten, but has not been nourished. So what happened to cutting 15 naira carrots?
Okay.
What happened to buying 15 naira egg?
Okay.
Into that same...
Or some vegetables?
Vegetables. What happened to ugu? The good
Which
old
you can
ugu,
get at the back of your house a lot
even
of the
water
time.
leaf.
Or even water leaf.
Even water leaf. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot so that it doesn't run the child's bowel. But you wash it neatly, you cut it nicely, and you spice the food with it. Some mothers will say, oh, the child doesn't like it. And I say, I don't agree with you. If you have taught the child to eat that, and you make it look exciting and interesting to that child is likely to toe the line of healthy eating habits if you lead that child that way.
So all these things make COVID-19 even more serious. How much more
Yes.
serious?
Now, we all know that COVID-19 doesn't have a cure, okay? We know that it's your immune system that has to fight and get you out of COVID if you ever contract it. Now, when a child is undernourished or malnourished, poorly nourished, okay, whichever term would like to use, the ability of that child's immune system to respond and to take care of whatever infection, COVID or whatever it may be, is reduced. You've reduced that child's ability to fight and to win. You've given that child the opportunity to be more susceptible to coming down with, the infection. So, but a healthy child who eats well, who is, well fed, you understand? Now, even if in the school environment, if other children come down with it, that child probably might not come down with it because the child's immunity is good based on the food that the child has been eating, which has boosted that child's immunity.
Speaking of immunity, you experts tell us that the magic juice is breast milk.
Fantastic.
Tell us about
In fact,
that.
now I feel hungry for breast milk. Okay, now we can't overemphasize breast milk. 0 to 6 months of age, exclusive breastfeeding. I love exclusive breastfeeding. In fact, sometimes I think I'm just lazy because I just can't imagine having to boil water, having to sterilize the bottles, and all the hassles that come with, bottle feeding. So breast milk contains everything that that child needs. It comes at the right temperature. It comes in the right constituency. It comes in the right form that that child's digestive system can actually use, okay? It doesn't run the bowels of the child. And it develops the child's mind.
It
the
does.
brain of the child. Yes. Don't you know that people who don't get breastfed, they don't become doctors?
That's a good one.
So I was breastfed, so I'm a doctor today. So okay, but on a more serious note, breast milk is actually very good in children.
Does it go beyond the 6-month point? Is it something that the child keeps enjoying into adulthood? I don't mean that the person is taking breast milk, but what it has done to the body.
Benefits that child has received. Yes. Now, there was a study sometime that said children who are breastfed, in childhood are less likely to develop type 2 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
In adulthood.
That is profound.
Profound. So, a child who is breastfed, a child who is breastfed, is not likely to be stunted. Is likely to attain, the desired height. A child who is breastfed is going to be intelligent. So beyond just the 6 months and the convenience, of breastfeeding the child and not having to depend on bottles and formula, which is expensive if you ask me now, okay? There are benefits way into childhood. Even obesity. Yes, research also states that children who are breastfed, are less likely to be obese as adults.
Okay. On that note, let's call for a break. When we come back, we continue on this very interesting topic. Please stay with us. We are coming back in a moment. Welcome back. This is Health Matters on Channels Television. You can call 0805-468-3514 for your questions on malnutrition and COVID-19. You can also tweet at CTV_Mary A while we continue the conversation. Now we're talking about the wonders of breast milk. That simply means that a breastfed child will also be more immune to COVID-19. But here's a question I have for you.
Okay.
What happens can a woman who just had a child, and then she gets COVID-19, can she feed that child, or does that child have to miss that opportunity?
Okay, thank you. You know, in medicine, we say that we weigh the consequences, okay? We weigh the pros and the cons, okay? If the pros, you know, if it outweighs the cons, okay? So we tilt to that direction. Now, there's no substitute for breast milk. No matter how good the formula is, it can't be 100% substitute for breast milk. So we've had cases of mothers, you know, who came down positive with COVID-19, and they had to be taken to the isolation center at that time. The baby was taken alongside.
The negative baby?
Yes, was taken. The only thing we did was that we created, we didn't house the mother with every other person. We gave some kind of privacy so that that child is not exposed to other people.
Okay.
Okay. But the child stayed with the mother so that the child could breastfeed. So yes, even a mother who is COVID positive, COVID-19 positive, yes, can still breastfeed the child because the benefits outweighs the disadvantage.
Okay. During the lockdown and shortly after, what was your experience? Did you see more malnourished children?
Yes.
And what was it like?
Yes. I think about a month or thereabouts ago, there was a program in the States called the Maternal, Newborn and Child Health Week. I know the First Lady did a flag off ceremony for that, you know, program. Now, that program basically was to look for children and mothers, okay, basically. And I know that part of the things they do in that program is they check for malnourished children, okay? So, in this case, there's something they use to measure malnutrition in these children. It's called a Shaka strip. It's like a color-coded strip, okay, that they wrap around the arm of the child, you know,
the
mid-arm
arm
circumference, exactly, of that child, okay? So if it's green, the child is good, all right? If it's yellow, the child is borderline, okay? And then if it's red, that's danger. That means that child is actually malnourished. Excuse me. So during that program, I know that quite a number of children were discovered to be malnourished. We had a lot of red cases, at least from the reports that I saw. You know, lots of children with it, even the pictures of those children. And why?
Let's quickly, sorry to cut you short. Let's quickly take Rotimi on the line. Hello, Rotimi. Are you there, Rotimi?
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your question?
Yeah. My question is that what do we do to those babies who refuse to take a breast while they are born? I've seen
Thanks,
a
Rotimi.
neighbor of mine whose baby refused to take a breast. So what do you do to such a?
Okay, we
how
get
do you
that all
make
the
him
time.
Take a breast. That's just my question.
Thank you so much. It must be a valid question if people keep asking.
Okay.
A child who doesn't agree to take breast milk.
child
And
who
he
doesn't-
says he has seen one.
Okay, the child refused to breastfeed. Okay. Now, I'd like to believe that this is the scenario. Maybe the child, at the time the child was delivered at the hospital, probably the mother was not able to breastfeed immediately.
Okay.
And then they had to probably introduce formula, they had to use bottles and all those things. Yes, I've seen cases like that. In fact, I nursed a baby like that.
Okay.
my last born was like that. After about 3 months, she just totally went off breast milk by herself.
Why?
I had to start work when she was 2 months. Okay, so I had to put her on formula, unfortunately. As a result of that, a point came that the child was a bit confused. Do I take the breast or do I take the bottle? I think I prefer the way the bottle feels in my mouth. I don't want the breast.
And the taste. It's usually sweeter.
And that was it.
Okay.
So I think that if the child is not introduced to bottles at all, okay, and sometimes we even encourage mothers to express the milk, okay? If the child wouldn't suck directly from the breast, sometimes there are issues with that child. You know, there are some children that might have some form of congenital issues, and when they try to suck, it takes a lot of effort and energy from that child. So
Okay.
the child will just not breastfeed. I mean, it's too much stress.
But
to try to
expressing
suck.
could help. So then you
Expressing
can
will help.
spoon
So
feed
you
the child.
spoon feed, thank you, not bottle. Use a cup and a spoon to feed the child.
Why? Why the distinction?
Thank you. Now, when you use the rubber teats, okay, of bottles, right? Some children at the end of the day might have a preference for those bottles and they would never go on the breast itself.
Okay.
That's one. The other thing is because the risk of infection is higher from those bottles. You have to sterilize,
because
you have to
clean
wash,
that
clean that, exactly,
hole
that hole.
and everything.
So that's why we prefer cups, and spoons to feeding bottles and babies.
Are we doing anything about food fortification? Common food fortification to help people who are poorer?
Well, food fortification. What comes to mind readily is nutritional deficiency when it comes to micronutrients.
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, now nobody buys salt these days without it having iodine. So I think that's even like a law. If you're producing iodine and you're packaging it, if you're producing salt, and you're packaging it, it should contain iodine in it. Then
How
I
do
will
we
say
get
sugar.
zinc?
Zinc, funny enough, when we have children that have diarrhea, we actually have tablets, zinc tablets. And it's not expensive, maybe about 100 naira or thereabouts, that we give to children, when they have diarrhea with salt and sugar solution,
Okay.
But basically, vitamins, our vegetables, basically, they contain, those classes of food.
Vitamin
Even
A and
milk.
all that. Let's quickly take Adegoke on the line. Hello, Adegoke. Hello?
Hello.
Looks like we lost Adegoke. Anyway, so, Adegoke, are you there? What's your question?
Yes. My wife is breastfeeding, but she's working. So I don't know, maybe.
Unfortunately, I can't hear you well, Adegoke. Could you raise your voice a bit? Oh, looks like we lost Adegoke. Try again next time. Thanks for calling anyway. It's true then that malnutrition is not just being too thin, too short. It's also being too fat. And during the lockdown, a lot of people went the other way.
Irony of life.
Apart from being overweight, are there other symptoms of being of overnutrition?
Yes. Now, that part of that aspect of malnutrition, because also malnutrition when you're on the excess side of it. Yes. Such people are prone to diabetes. Apart from obesity, they're prone to heart disease. They're prone to hypertension. Okay. So yes, for those who are sedentary and they are consuming more calories than they are burning, because that's actually what the problem is. Now, both of us might eat the same, bolus of meal, so to say.
But you're burning yours faster than I am.
Something of that nature. I'm more active. I'm here, there, I'm climbing the staircase, something like that. I'm burning the energy. I'm not sitting at the table, checking mails all day, social media and all that. I'm moving about. So for such people, most of the time, it's because they're consuming more calories
than they're burning. Let's quickly take Ife. Hello, Ife.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's your question?
Okay. Still on this malnutrition issue, like I have a 1-year-old and I'm confused about food to give her because she normally just wants to take this Cerelac, this cereal, Nutribon. I tried introducing beans, mash it up and all, but she's not taking it. And I feel like the nutrition is not complete if I'm not giving her protein and some other stuff. So I just want to ask the doctor, what other foods can I give a 1-year-old?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I really didn't get her question.
The child insists on taking cereals
alone.
Doesn't want to take protein. What can she do?
Okay. I think I heard she said the child is a year old.
A year old, yes.
Okay, fine. Now, in such a child, the Cerelac is not a bad option. So continue with what you're doing, okay? But the advice is this. When you are eating at home, okay, whatever food you are eating, even if it's a tiny bit of it that the child takes, fantastic. Go ahead and give. The best form of protein that you can give to that child is milk, okay, and then fish. Sometimes fish helps, okay. Titus fish, you mash it, and then you feed the child.
And it helps when you are eating. The
Yes,
child also
when
wants
you are
to eat
eating,
with
that's,
you.
Yes, that's the key thing
The
to it.
companionship
Exactly.
of it.
So don't just say, oh, I want to feed the child. No, make it a family time
Affair.
out. Exactly.
Yeah, a
the
fun
whole family,
thing.
exactly. It's a fun thing. Everybody's eating on the table. Hey, we're having fun. So it's a child. Somehow the child will feel the atmosphere. And even if it's not a lot, you know, no matter how little it is, it will do something in that child's system. So don't give up at it. Continue, no matter how little it is. Sometimes he will make a mess of it, you know, and sometimes you can even put it in his own plate. Everybody has a plate, so why shouldn't the baby have a plate? So give him his own plate, mash
Some
it
will
in
get
it.
down,
Some will get down, some on the floor,
chair.
some on his clothes, some on your clothes. You know, but that means a little portion of it will still enter into his system.
Thank you so much. We have to end on that note. Thanks for coming. Special thanks to you, Rotimi Adegoke Ife, and everybody else at home listening. Please stay safe, stay nourished, and see you next time. I am Mary Alale Yusuf.